Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Terrence Oglesby with me, who was famously one-time recruited by Shaka Smart when Shaka Smart was at Clemson. So I think it's
Man,
safe to say T.O. knows Shaka. Probably not all that well, but he can break down this Marquette team for you about as well as anybody. He is our Big East guy, hashtag
huge Big East guy.
certified Big East guy. So let's break down this Marquette team. They lose Tyler Kolek. They lose Oso Ighodaro. That's a lot. That is
It's a
a
lot.
lot to lose. And they went out in the transfer portal and they added as many players in the transfer portal as I did this offseason. They brought in nobody. They are running it back and they are completely betting on their in-house development. They're the guys that they have coming back, the culture that Shaka is trying to build. And I'll be honest to you, I kind of love what they're doing, right? I love the concept of it. It's definitely a risk that they're taking, but if you're going to give me a lineup that has Sean Jones, a healthy Sean Jones who should be back, um, Cam Jones, Stevie Mitchell, David Joplin, Ben Gold, with a guy like a Chase Ross coming off the bench, with a guy like a Trey Norman coming off the bench, with a couple of decent freshmen coming in. I don't hate what they've put together. I don't know if they are going to be as good as they've been the last couple of years. 2 years ago, they won the Big East regular season and Big East tournament titles. The last two seasons, they have been a 2 seed. I don't know if they're going to be that good, but I don't think that there's going to be some like drastic fall off here. I just think that Shaka betting on the culture that he can build at a place like Marquette makes a lot of sense. And when you lose an All-American and an NBA draft pick, you're always going to take a step backwards. It's just kind of one of those things that happens. So what do you make of
Two draft
Marquette?
picks.
Yeah, two draft picks. What do you make of their offseason? What do you make of this roster they've put together? And what do you make of Shaka's gamble on saying we can develop players better in-house than other teams can if we go out and get them in the portal?
Yeah. Hey, look, I think you don't bring in anybody new outside of freshmen. People are going to raise eyebrows, especially in today's age. However, they brought back all of their good players. And when somebody steps out, those points go somewhere. Those assists go somewhere. The amount of time that you have the ball in Tyler Kolek's hands and Oso Ighodaro's hands, it goes somewhere. So I feel like we're going to have some guys emerge here. The guy that I'm looking at more than anybody else, Ben Gold. Like I thought he was really talented. I never really felt when I watched him over the past season or two where he really got comfortable to a point to where I can settle in, I can start to read the game, I can make some of these passes that I'm capable of, because he was always playing with Oso, and Oso was a great player and he was a great passer. So you need to play through that kind of guy, but he always kind of felt out of position. So I'm curious to see how that goes. This Marquette team brought all their studs back. They're still long, they're still athletic. They know how to play together. So they're going to get off to a great start next season because there's some familiarity there. Cam Jones is a bucket. We've all known that. And Stevie Mitchell is one of the best defenders in the Big East. And if you're one of the best defenders in the Big East, saying a lot because the dude hounds the ball. It's an old school approach. Get our guys, keep our guys, and they're still happy. I'm excited to see this Marquette team and how they continue to progress without Oso Ighodaro, without Tyler Kolek, because there's a lot of weapons there. And there's guys that were probably capable of more that we don't quite know about that Shaka and company have up their sleeve. I think Zayd Lowery could also be a guy. He oozed potential last year, didn't get all that much tick. He's a guy who could step to the forefront and play a little bit more. They have weapons. And they have curveball after curveball, and they can play different ways depending on what roster or what lineup is in the game with this roster. So Sean Jones, it could be this Mighty Mouse type figure, gets up, pressures the ball, does a lot of things. Then you could go a little bit bigger with Trey Norman and try to mix and match some things depending on who you're playing on a given night. I like the team. I liked them last year. Who steps up in place of Kolek and Ighodaro?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's going to be Cam Jones. I think we are going to see another level from this dude. Tyler Kolek missed basically 6 games last season towards the end of the year with the thumb injury, right? Marquette went 3-3 in those games, which is not great. But if you kind of dive a little bit deeper, 2 of those losses came to UConn. One of those losses was to UConn in the Big East championship game. And one of those losses was at Creighton in a game where Cam Jones had 23 and Marquette was winning with like 4 minutes left in the game before the wheels kind of fell off. It ended up being like a 14-point loss, but it was not a 14-point game. They played really well. He averaged 24 and a half points in those 6 games that Tyler Kolek didn't play. And I think that he is wound a certain type of way where any kind of doubt that he hears externally is going to be something that gets right in here and just burns a hole in his brain. I think that he's going to have a monster season. I think that he's going to lead the Big East in scoring next year. And I think there's a non-zero chance that he averages like 23 points per game. I think the world of him. I think he's going to have a fantastic season.
All right. So Kolek got injured where? He got injured with 6 games to go, didn't play in the Big East tournament. So, I mean, look at his assist totals from then on. I mean, Creighton, he had 3, 2 against UConn, had 9 against Xavier, 4 against Villanova, 5 against Providence, 4 against UConn whenever they lost. Like, I think he's capable. If the ball's in his hands more, he's going to be able to create more. Who's the other guy? That's the biggest thing because they run such a fluid offensive movement-based system. It's going to be spaced out. Is Ben Gold going to be able to make those passes? Is Sean Jones going to be able to be a difference maker from a playmaking perspective at that size? Small guards, they're great in spurts. We see the same thing with Tennessee, who we've already talked about in this. Like Zakai Ziegler's kind of the same way. How can you impact the game being a small guard? I'm curious to see how they move that forward and how Sean Jones can continue being that curveball if he's starting, which I'm not really sure that's going to be the case. I think Cam Jones has to be that guy.
Yeah, I don't know that Sean Jones will. I think they basically have 3 guys that are going to be elite defenders, and Sean Jones, Stevie Mitchell, and Chase Ross. And I think that we're going to see 2 of those guys on the floor next to Cam Jones all season long, right? And sometimes I think I obviously haven't talked to Shaka about this. He probably wouldn't give me an honest answer if I asked him on July 9th anyway. But I think that the ideal option for me would be to have Sean Jones be the change of pace guy that you come in off the bench. Because
I'm a big fan of that. The only thing is like he's the only returning guy who got significant minutes. So I'm probably naively slotting him in the starting lineup, but I would prefer him coming off the bench in kind of that same role as well.
Yeah, and I think to your point, you kind of mentioned this earlier. I think you need a big step up from Ben Gold, and I think we need to see the leap that we all thought David Joplin was going to take last season, this season. Like those 2 guys, you got to be able to get probably like 25 and 13 out of those 2 guys combined, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood of shot making and bucket getting. I think you need them to both be able to space the floor really, really well to create the space for guys like Stevie Mitchell and Chase Ross and Sean Jones, who are not going to be the best shooters in the world. But imagine trying to keep in front of Sean Jones when your 5-man and your 4-man have to go chase Ben Gold and David Joplin off the 3-point line. All of a sudden, you're going to get a bunch of layups out of him. So tell me what you think about this. I do think that we might see a little bit more kind of like the old school VCU kind of Shaka out of these Marquette teams, because instead of I love Tyler Kolek. Tyler Kolek was not a guy that would have fit on 2011 VCU, right? I love also
but their defense was still good because he was so damn smart.
Yeah, and it's tough and strong.
Yeah,
but they were more of like we're going to grind you down in the half court. Where I would not be surprised if we saw a little bit more like, okay, we're going to spend 30 minutes a game pressing you for 94 feet and just saying, you want to try to bring the ball up against Sean Jones and Stevie Mitchell. Good luck. Have fun with that. These dudes are going to create 3 to 4 turnovers a game in your backcourt that lead to layups. And I think we might see a little bit more, maybe not full havoc, but like maybe kind of like mini havoc. What's mini havoc? Like uncomfortable chaos, maybe?
Yeah, mini havoc. That's with Stevie Mitchell and Sean Jones up at the point of attack.
Yeah.
That's where
good
that.
luck
That's
with
where
that
that could happen.
Good luck.
And,
imagine trying to bring the ball up against those 2 dudes.
Exactly. And then Zayd Lowry, who
Mm-hmm.
look, he played up and down last year. I was a big fan when I saw him, and he was probably the least recruited guy out of their lot of freshmen last season. You want to talk about tools? I mean, length, has a nice looking shot. Like, is he going to be able to develop into that next guy at Marquette? They have length. They have Chase Ross, Zayd Lowry. Think about this. You want to go full ball pressure and mini havoc? Stevie Mitchell, Sean Jones, 1 and 2. You go Zayd Lowry, Chase Ross. Oof. My God. Just,
man.
yeah, I mean, like, how are you going to run any offense? That's going to be tough.
Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at one of the hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/unified68 to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/UNIFYD, the number 6, the number 8. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system. Yeah, so I think I don't know. I'm very curious. I guess they're the team that I'm probably the most intrigued to see what they end up doing. It's something where it's like I'm gonna I'm gonna buy into Shaka finding a way to get it done, because he's proven us that he's gonna find a way to be able to get it done. I just don't really know what it's gonna look like. You know what I mean? Like, when you rank them in the top 15 this year, you're doing it because you're betting on Shaka finding a way to get it done more than betting on what this roster looks like on paper. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep. I think you could certainly put them in the top 25 to begin with, just because I do feel like they lost a lot of production, and they lost the fulcrum of that offense last year between Kolek, and more so than Kolek. And people are going to think I'm crazy for this, but more so than Kolek, Iguodala was the guy that they just
Yeah.
gave it to, and then everything just started spinning. So who's going to be that next guy? I probably would have them.
Hey, did you see that video that went
20
around
to 30
of
range.
Did you see that video going around of, it was some, I can't remember who it was, but it was an NBA draft guy that just would start a clip and play it until like the start of the first action of an NBA game, and it would be also trying to tell people, like, he's like, all right, what's going to happen on this play?
Yeah.
And also would watch it, and he would figure it, like, he'd say exactly what the play was going to be. I don't know
Mhm.
if that's something that like most players at that level can get, but
No.
you saw like the basketball IQ there between Oso and Tyler Kolek. Like, that's what made them so good last year. It wasn't that they were talented, it's that you had the two smartest dudes on the floor every single time you took the floor with Tyler and Oso.
If
And
Oso could shoot it, man, he would have been top 20 for sure.
if
Just
Oso
can't.
if Oso could shoot it, he wouldn't have been back at Marquette last season.
That's right.
Like, he would have been
Also
gone,
true.
man. Um, Now, so I wrote down for the X factor. I honestly think that it's Cam Jones, right? And it feels crazy saying this because he's the star of the team, but I think that he has to be the level that Devin Carter was at last year for Providence, if that makes sense. Like, he has to be
Oof.
able to put this team on his back and carry them, because I don't know if there's he needs to I think he needs to be like a first or second team All-American if Marquette is going to be a team that competes for like a top 4 kind of a seat. I think he has to be that good. And I don't know if people necessarily look at him as a guy that is going to be that good. And
I
I
think
think
he
that
is
he
going to
will.
be that good.
Yeah, I do too.
Uh, uh, my X factor, I'm going Ben Gold, because you have this talented guy that hasn't really reached his potential yet, but he also hasn't had the opportunity to stay in the game long enough to where he could really figure it out and get comfortable. I think Ben Gold could be that guy. Good looking jump shot, has shown the ability to pass it a little bit. He wasn't on Oso Iguodaro's level by any stretch of the imagination as far as decision making, but he also wasn't in long enough some games to where like he could really feel the flow of the game. Now, is he capable of being that level of decision? We don't know yet, but there's also a lot of natural talent and ability there. So I think he could be a guy that could step into that role. And quite frankly, he's going to have to be that guy who could step into that role.
I do know that the staff thinks very, very highly of him.
It's easy to see, man. You
Yes.
watch him in warmups before the games. 6'10", like can really move, shoots a nice ball, handles the ball, can pass it. Like all those natural things are there. It's the in-game execution that needs to take another step, given that he's going to receive more minutes this season.
Yep. The Big East to me is pretty wide open this year. I think that Creighton has a chance to be really good. I think Marquette has a chance to be really good. I'm a big
Providence.
fan of Xavier and what they put together. I think Providence is going to be a good team. Like they're just, uh, and even if you look at UConn, right? If there was someone other than Dan, like if Dan Hurley takes the Lakers job and anybody else takes this roster, no one who would rank that roster right now in the top 5 if it was coached by somebody other than Dan Hurley. I think the fact that you trust his ability to develop players and you trust his ability to get the guys in that system to play at their best is why they are ranked in the top 5, which is a long-winded way of saying that I don't think that that's a surefire, like they're going to win the Big East outright no matter what happens, right? I think there's some concerns and well, maybe concerns is the wrong word, question marks. It's a long-winded way of saying I think that the Big East is open enough that there's somebody else that could potentially win it this year. And I'm not ready to put Marquette quite in that conversation yet. I think I'd probably have them behind UConn. I think I'd have them behind Creighton, and I think I'd have them behind Xavier heading into this season. Are you with me? Do you agree with that?
It's muddy at the top. I think UConn goes their default number 1 at this point, just because of everything they're doing. After that, Creighton's going to be good. It just kind of depends on some of the evolutions of some of these guys that haven't been given the responsibility that they're going to be given this year. As far as making a prediction, I think they make the NCAA tournament, but at the same time, if some of these guys don't step up, Cam Jones is on an island. So best case scenario, Marquette's the second weekend. I think worst case scenario, you're looking at what do they call it? The first 4 situation. I think that's plenty plausible.
Yeah. You don't want to be stuck in that situation that St. John's and Providence and Seton Hall were in last year, where
bubble. I mean, worst case scenario, you're looking bubble team. Best case scenario, you're looking, 4 or 5 seed in a team that really puts it together.
I just can't see them missing the tournament. Like I don't know.
Look, I don't either. But we said high ceiling. We said where's the floor at? I think they make the tournament. But like Ben Gold's going to have to be good.
Yeah,
he's going to have to be good. Just because you need that guy at the 5.
Yep. All right, give me an off-season grade for Marquette. They were a tough one for me to grade. What do you got?
Oh man, it's kind of hard because like we know what they have coming back. We just haven't seen what they've seen in practice every day. So obviously they love what they're doing. Stick with what you know. Sometimes, as you say, the best ones in the transfer portal are the one you keep. Trilly. So it's
the best gets are the one you already have.
Yeah, the best gets are the ones you already have. I mean, B+, just because you're able to keep all those guys. Like there's a lot of people that would have been chomping at the bit to grab a hold of Sean Jones. A lot of people would have been chomping at the bit for Chase Ross, Zayd Lowry. They held on to everybody. So there's your work, B+.
Yeah, I went with a B. Retention matters, culture matters, player development matters. I don't think it's coincidence that the team that has been the best in the country in terms of retention and player development has won the last 2 national titles. So all of that stuff matters, especially when you get a guy like Cam Jones coming back, but you lose maybe the best point guard in college basketball last season in Tyler Kolek. You lose one of the best 5 men in college basketball last year in Oso Iguodaro. You lose as much basketball IQ as anybody in college basketball lost this past offseason. And I think you are absolutely taking a risk when you don't even go out and just I mean, you didn't have to.
And
blow
hey,
it
Kolick
up.
was a transfer too. Now it's not like Marquette
Yeah,
just doesn't do it.
yeah, but
Like he was a transfer. Like
you could
could
have
they
gone
have
out
gone
and gotten
out?
like
But that's
one
almost like
guy.
saying like we have these guys that we really believe in. We've sold them that we believe in them. We're going to hang with them, and because of that, they retained everybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah. The risk is like you bring one guy. Like let's just say you bring in a point guard to start this year, right? Well, then does Sean Jones see that and say, you know what, I'm not going to hang around for another season where I don't start, so I'm gone, right? And then you have to bring in someone to replace him, and then that just starts a cascading, revolving door of turnover because you recruit over someone and they're like, "F this, I'm not hanging around if I'm getting recruited over." So I get what he's doing. I do think that there is a level of risk involved in it, but at the end of the day, like he's been a 2 seed the last 2 years. He won
yep.
he's 18 months removed from winning a dual Big East title when another team in that league won the national championship, right? Like I'm not gonna it feels very disingenuous to sit here and say, Shaka, you're doing this wrong when
No,
he's having quite a bit of success. So I'll
no,
just
but also over the last couple of years, he's had those two guys.
yeah. I mean it
Like,
helps.
like
How many teams would have
I
gotten
have
better with
faith that they're
Tyler
going to be
Kolek?
able to be. I have faith they're going to be fine. I have faith they're going to be fine. They're going to be really good. And they're going to be a tough cover. Who steps up?
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I'm with you. All right. Listen, that was our breakdown of Marquette. Make sure you keep it here on the field of 68. We're going to have about 45 of these offseason grades going out over the course of the next 2 months.